Trendsetter by industry plant Coi Leray. 20 songs, 50 minutes long, and
add this to album covers that you don't want to give to your wife.
Yeah. I every single day every single week we give new tests to YouTube's algorithm to see whether our video gets flagged on thumbnail alone. This is going to be another one those days. But yeah, Coi Leray has come out with, some really kind of interesting mini career on her hands. There are a couple of releases. There's Everything Cuz and EC2. There was the song Anxiety that came out as like a single from this that we saw was pretty interesting. And she's kind of gone into how, the music creating process, especially leading up to this album, has been particularly difficult and like shown a lot of like mental health things she's had to go through and work through. And so it's an interesting project overall. I think it covers a lot of topics and has a lot of, different production styles in that, and so I like that versatility and variety. There's a little bit of rap that you get with artists like Nicki Minaj, 504, and like h.e.r, for example. And then you get some like trap and B things with
her and a couple others.
Yeah, and just like throughout here, it just in the album itself. Like I'd say Clingy as well and Heartbreak Kid, even though Heartbreak Kid, Clingy with Nav and then Heartbreak Kid being kind of more trap and B, but very no. What am I saying? Say no feature. And then, you just get a pretty interesting variety of tracks through here. I don't think there's a lot of cohesion per se, or I think there could be a little bit more of an effort to be made to that. Yeah. And I think at times, sometimes the song is just like kind of like over the top with like what it's kind of going for. And not like an over the top in, I think we did Latto a couple of weeks ago, or like City Girls, what's a category of just like extreme like over sexualization, but it just sort of feels like, maybe I don't know Coi Leray that well, but I just sort of doesn't feel sold or like genuine as much as it feels from other artists, like say h.e.r or Kalani or Jasmine Sullivan, let's say. So
Jasmine Sullivan especially,
yeah.
It's an okay record. It's boring to me. It's just very bland hearing throughout it. The features are okay, but they don't. Even like with her, someone I really like her as an artist. Even that feature wasn't that great. It wasn't
on Overthinking,
on Overthinking. It wasn't done very well, and I just don't think that it was. It feels like it was hastily put together for a record in the way it was. I mean, obviously we don't really know, but just for the way it sounds, it just feels like it's kind of slapped together and thrown out there in the way it was made. But it's nothing. The production of it's just your average trap pop song, average trap and beat song, nothing at all where it's just nothing that goes blows you away, blows you out of the water at all. There's no experimentation. It's just bog standard milk toast centrism, basically. But like especially because we had two albums. You had Vince Staples and you have Coi Leray, and they're two different albums, but they're different takes on kind of similar things. And with Vince's, like, the production, everything, I'm just comparing it. Like, when I was listening to these records, I go, yeah, this is so bland compared to all of the things that we've been getting this year. We've been getting a ton of music, a lot of actually decent rap, a lot of decent trap and B, too. And with that, like, you have to put out, you got to do something different. You can't just keep doing the same things over and over again. And, like, the No More Parties remix with Lil Durk, like, in the middle of the record, like, that is just the most, put that at a party or put that at any random store in LA and fine with what it is, but it's nothing that's going to knock you out the water. It's lazy production. It's lazy songwriting. It's a little hot take, but it's just
no. I would totally be with
2022. Like we got to do more shit than this.
Yeah, I would totally be with you there. Like I think that there's you saw some moments where you're kind of going into different ideas and things, and I like. Even songs like 7 and 8, like I mentioned, Clingy and Heartbreak Kid, they kind of do like a more guitar-related thing as on the backdrop to kind of keep things fresh within here. But like it's only just a little bit there, and those are production choices that you can make necessarily. It still doesn't. There isn't a lot that branches out, sadly.
No, and a lot of the production sounds the same too. Like Heartbreak Kid and No More Parties remix, even though it's a remix of No More Parties, the production on it is so fucking similar. Just like, why am I listening to the same song twice? I don't need this. It happens a lot on this record, and just that's where you get that lazy production. Just Fisher Price beats, just bass boosted to 3, and then rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat.
Yeah. Overall, like, okay, but can we just get this out of the way that this is one of those like blue link Wikipedia parent artists where like you think they're kind of, you know, cool and trendy and hip and young, but it turns out like their parents are really well connected in the music industry. And not to make this a Power Report episode, but there is something to be said about how a lot of new artists who are coming around the scene, like in the 2000s and 2010s, you had a lot of fresh faces coming through who weren't necessarily extremely musically connected. Now in the 2020s, the people who can afford to kind of get in the right places and be in front of all the right people, because that is a big cost up front, are people who happen to be related to musicians. You could even look at like Billie Eilish and Phineas, for example. Their parents are very deep in the music industry. There's a lot of other artists who are coming up in that kind of very traditional way, and not only do you worry about kind of, it's less of a gatekeeping issue because there's so much in music, but you get things that are over promoted. Like, Sean and I literally walked by a trendsetter like pop-up store the other day. Like you get these things that are overly promoted, not necessarily because there's promise behind the artist, but because like this artist has parents that are well connected and knows which strings to pull and go to in the music industry, even if that connection with the parents isn't necessarily the healthiest. As we'll go through in the story that we did here, where Benzino, who is Coi Leray's father, Benzino is like a well-known rap producer person type thing. Basically, Coi Leray was on The Breakfast Club saying that he's a deadbeat. Things like that, saying Coi Leray said, my dad's texting my mom, threatening her and me because I said he went broke on The Breakfast Club my day of the album release. She tweeted, I hate to bring this shit to social media, but my father need help. Sorry if I offended you on Breakfast Club, but don't treat me or my mom different because you hate to admit that we went broke after the source. Basically saying like, build a bridge. That's why I never mention his name coming into this industry, because he can't get over his past and don't even realize how much damaging he is when he does this stuff. So that's sort of like a trying to almost combat that kind of thing, saying like, no, this wasn't industry related or like mentioning that. But ultimately you have an advantage because you're around those kinds of people. You know the kind of places to go better than someone else who's starting would. So I don't buy the whole I got this completely without any help from my dad kind of thing. It's one of those libertarians. I magically didn't use any roads and use no electricity or anything like that, and use no like public schooling at all.
To start a business,
way.
I magically did not have $100,000 started in cash already. I magically didn't have my parents' house already. It's one of those.
Yeah. And then dad responds in another way by saying, it's a long like back and forth, but I think at one point he says, legends don't play the back, they set the standards. Thank you for Charlemagne the God and DJ Envy, two people who like defended him and stick it up for him, not letting a false narrative for who I am, and what I've accomplished happen. I put too much work in for the culture. And he says the problem with this social generation is they have no respect or regard for who came before them and how they laid the blueprint for them to be successful. I always revered those who came before me, and I'm grateful to the legends of hip-hop. And so it's sort of this it's a generational thing. It's this, I actually did help you in your career thing. And in these back and forths, it's pure messy drama. I think there's like some truth in between both of that. I'm pretty sure the dad's a dick. I'm pretty sure Coi Leray is like not realizing some of the privileges that she was afforded in getting to her release of a relatively lackluster album. But overall, I think it also serves to be a really nice piece of publicity for an otherwise lackluster album.
Yeah, it's just, a mess to say the least.
Yeah.
Arbitrary scale?
Yes, arbitrary scale, lumber sizes. We do arbitrary scales every week on Audioface because our review counts, and that's the end of that. It is going to be
lumber size. So let's see. What are we gonna do for this one?
What do we have? I think I can give this like I'll give this a 1x5.
1x5. That's fine. I was gonna give it a 5/4 by 6.
Oh, that's incredibly useless.
It's incredibly useless measurement. You're like, you got me a what? You did a what now?